Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Random Encounter 230 or 230. This is going to be an interesting episode. We're doing something a little bit different this time. Usually we have some guests on, we talk about things, we figure that kind of thing out, we talk about reviews, we talk about features. Today we're going to be doing that, but we are also recording at the same time the Game Awards are on. So that, and I mean like right now, like I am watching it. The Game Awards just started 13 minutes ago. So it's on my screen. So what we're going to be doing here is, as like world premiere features and trailers and stuff come out, I will be jumping in and interrupting our panelists if they are in the middle of a very complicated thought, but they like announce Final Fantasy 16. Then we are. I'm going to be like, hang on, everybody, we have to take a look at this. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be breaking news episode, hopefully. But let's meet our guests tonight. So first up, we have Niki Fakhoori.
Hello, it's me.
And we have, yes, it's you, Niki Fakhoori. And we also have Brian Mackenzie.
Hey.
Brian Mackenzie, the one who apparently has caught them all, which should give you an idea about what we might be talking about later in this episode. So let's take a look. So there's already been some pre-show announcements and some world premiere trailers. We're just going to take a quick look at some of the news that has been announced, or new trailers, that kind of thing. So the one that, caught everyone by surprise was Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, which is a re-release. At first, you see that kind of thing and you're like, oh my God, there's going to be new Persona, and it's not new. But it is a re-release that came out in 2014, but now this is a Persona 4 fighting game that is going to be coming out on PlayStation 4, Steam, and Switch, which I think many people are going to be excited about. Something that took me off guard because I was always a fan of their work, and recently watched a documentary about their fall. Telltale Games is back with a new adventure game, The Expanse, a Telltale series, and that is going to be based on The Expanse, which is a Amazon sci-fi show. Square Enix debuted a new trailer for their online multiplayer action RPG Babylon's Fall. Solosi is probably screaming because we got a new trailer for the expansion of Monster Hunter Rise. It's Sunbreak, and it's going to be coming this summer. And the thing that really caught my eye, because I love them, is something that looks maybe like a Metroidvania. And, we sometimes cover Metroidvanias and we sometimes don't, because, it depends on whether or not there are going to be RPG features. But this one had numbers on the screen as they hit people. And when there are numbers on the screen, I get excited. So it's called Have a Nice Day, and it's apparently about a very cartoon version of death. Lots of announcements that have already happened. Do either of you have any, saw anything and went, oh my goodness, that sounds interesting?
I'm pretty excited about the Persona 4 Arena. I'm a big fighting game and RPG guy. So, when the original game came out, I played that a bit. But I've gotten a lot better at fighting games since I've gotten older. So I'm excited to try it again now that I'm a bit better at that genre.
Mm-hmm. I think it looks really pretty. I like me some pixel art.
Oh yeah, it's a great looking game.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Telltale because I haven't watched The Expanse, so I'm not super excited about that particular game. What I would be excited about is that they announced the second season of the Fables adventure game, The Wolf Among Us, because I've always been a big fan of the comic books, and I think they knocked it out of the park with those with that series. And it's interesting how Telltale has splintered over the last few years, and though they are now apparently releasing some new games, which is surprising because they rather spectacularly and famously went bankrupt or folded. There are some other games that are coming out, re-releases, like Sam & Max Beyond Space and Time Remastered just came out, and I love that game. I just love it. And they are not. It's from a company called Skunk Ape Games, which is a small team of people who worked at the original on the original games at Telltale. So apparently they got the rights to that. So there's a lot of Telltale content coming out lately.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that. I wasn't sure we were ever going to see a Telltale game again. Certainly not for a while. So that was some surprising news for me. Positive news, though.
Yeah, it is positive. It's nice. It's nice to see that kind of thing. And a company may be rising from the ashes, although I am a little concerned that it was licensed games that kind of brought about their downfall. So I'm a little concerned that it might be continuing with that, with The Expanse, but we'll see. Well, let's take a look at some news now that has nothing to do with the Game Awards. at least not yet. And it is something of great interest to RPG fans all over the world, which is a crossover. And, we sometimes see crossovers, but this one is very special. So there is a game it's a single-player RPG for mobile called Another Eden, The Cat Beyond Space and Time. And this was designed by some of the creators of the Chrono Trigger series, so Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross. And there were a lot of similarities. When it was first announced a few years ago, there was a lot of speculation about it being a new Chrono Trigger game, but it wasn't. It was unrelated, but, they had a lot of similarities, similar character designs. There was a warrior frog. And it turns out that we are going to be getting some just wonderful Chrono crossover because they are doing one. It's called Complex Dream, and it's going to be a crossover with the characters of Chrono Cross. And I'm just curious, are either of you excited about this?
I was just going to say I'm excited for the fans who are excited. That's it.
Have you never played Chrono Trigger?
I am a real fan of RPGs, I swear.
I know you are. Might need to do something about that in the future then. Yeah, well, I'm excited for people too, because I've gone off on some rants about Chrono Cross the last few weeks, and I don't want to do another one. So Brian, you take it from here.
Yeah, I was pretty unfamiliar with Another Eden until I actually wrote the news article on this, so I looked into it a bit, and it looked pretty cool. I'm actually thinking about trying it out when the crossover comes out, which is actually today, so maybe I'll check it out this weekend. But it looked pretty neat. Usually I'm not a big mobile game guy, especially a lot of the RPG crossovers tend to be, kind of like the gacha multiplayer games.
Yeah.
And there, there's microtransactions and elements of that here. But it does look like it's basically a single player kind of story driven RPG, which is kind of neat to me. You don't see that on mobile games that often.
We don't really know. We've gotten some hints about the plot, which, to be honest, don't really make a lot of sense to me because I haven't played the original yet. But what we're looking at here is, let's see here. It is a crossover story. So it features Serge, Kid, and Harl. And apparently it's going to be taking place in a parallel reality from Another Eden, where the main character lost the big battle. So they are really going to be leaning into the Chrono Cross alternate reality thing. So it's not just going to be character skins. It seems like they're actually doing some stuff.
Oh yeah, some of the new mechanics that they said. I know they said they're adding a new game plus with branching storylines, which is neat. And then you're also getting some kind of new mechanical options to the game. They're adding combo attacks and field effects. So you get the crossover content, and then there's also some new mechanics and new story to come with it,
which is always nice. Well, the Game Awards just announced something Star Wars related called Star Wars Eclipse. I was watching it and I was like, this is way too, everything looks way too advanced to be anything from KOTOR. But hey, maybe it's from Quantic Dream. Maybe it'll have something to do with RPGs. That would be pretty cool because I could go for a good Star Wars RPG. Well, let's dive into something that it's a slightly older game, but actually technically both of the games we're talking about today are older games, but they are very recent releases. So, Niki, I would like to talk to you about Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc Anniversary Edition.
Yes, that's a video game.
I've heard it's a video game.
There's definitely stuff going on.
I've heard there are several video games in it.
There are actually. I figured that out, yeah.
It's a series now.
I went and I played the second one after I played the first one, so I do know for a fact that is true. There are multiple games in the series. It's not like someone made that up. It's real.
Yeah, and they have all recently got re-released for the Switch, which is awesome because I imagine that it's a platform that is tailor-made for these type of games. So, yeah, these are adventure games with visual novel aspects of it. And many people talk about how I've never played them before. I've always wanted to, and I'm actually getting pretty excited because they are on Switch now. And that seems to be exactly a platform that I would play it on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Danganronpa.
From what I understand, Danganronpa was originally on the PSP. So when you're playing the port on Switch, you're not missing out on any sort of like touch screen controls or conveniences like you would be if you were playing, for example,
Yeah.
Ace Attorney, right? Like the Ace Attorney 1, 2, 3 collection.
It feels like you're missing something when you're playing it on Switch or you're playing it on like PC because you don't have that extra screen.
Right, yeah. And it's interesting because Ace Attorney was on Game Boy Advance originally, but like, wow, the DS was like its home. It worked so well for that. But thankfully for Durian Grapefruit, that's not really a problem. It's a weird game. So there are these high schoolers. The setting is Hope's Peak High School, and basically all of the students are scouted into that school because they are the literal best at what they do. So if the one student is like the best baseball player, he would be the ultimate baseball player. And if one of them is like the best martial artist, they would be the ultimate martial artist and stuff like that. But there's also a student who gets picked randomly by like a lottery drawing, and that's our main protagonist, Nagi something. I forget all their names. I'm so sorry. There's another character in the second game with a similar name that I'm very suspicious about because of how similar their names are, and it just makes me forget all their names. But anyway, main character Kun is the ultimate lucky student because he was picked completely randomly by this lottery system. And then he's like, wow, I'm so glad I'm going to this great prestigious school. It's so great. The saying goes that if you graduate from this high school, you are set for life because it is just that prestigious, and you're going to have like everything you need to succeed in your adult life. So I'm so excited to go to this school. So he goes to the school and then he passes out. And that's not good because then when he wakes up, there's him and like a dozen or so, a little over a dozen other students. And then there's this bear, and he's named Monokuma, and he's a bad guy. He says, guess what, kids? You're stuck in the school. And they're like, that's not good. How do we get out of the school? And he said, this is how you can do that. If you kill somebody and get away with it, you can leave the school. And they're like, oh, that seems pretty illegal. And that's the premise of the game. Uh-oh, how do we get out of the school without killing people? If someone dies, who's the killer? Because we can't let him get away with it, because if we let him get away with it, then the bear's going to kill us, because only one person is going to leave the school alive. Uh-oh, danger. Why is this happening at all? And all sorts of cool mysteries to solve with you and your friends. Or are they your friends? Oh, yes, you gotta find out, because what if they try to kill you? That's the game.
It's always important to find out if your friends want to kill you or not.
Yeah, that would be important. That's the thing, right? It's like, oh, how can I want to trust my friends. I want to trust these people that I'm living with, but you never know how much they want to leave. And, maybe it seems like, oh, things are kind of calming down. Maybe we can live together happily in this like high school that provides us with food and stuff. But then Monokuma shows up and is like, I have a motive for you guys. And he'll present something that makes people want to leave. So maybe, oh, if you can get away with the killing this time, I'll give you $1 billion. Wow, maybe someone really needs $1 billion, so now they're going to actually feel motivated to try to kill somebody. So all sorts of wild, wacky things happen in the Devil Survivor Gundam Wing game. Yeah.
As someone who is a massive fan of, say, Ace Attorney, because I've been known to play an Ace Attorney game or two, I am curious how this game differs from that style of adventure game, because a lot of people compare the two, and I understand there are similarities, but also a lot of differences, and not just because one takes place in a high school. What would you say is, like, how do they play differently?
Playing differently? Wow, they're very different. So what the there's gonna be like a murder, right? And it's like, uh-oh.
One sec, Nick. Oh my god.
Yeah. Did they announce Ace Attorney 900?
It looks like they announced Alan Wake 2, which I just finished yesterday.
Whoa.
Oh, that's very exciting.
That's very exciting. It's not an RPG. It has adventure game elements, but yeah, they just announced Alan Wake 2. Okay, sorry, continue.
Amazing. Whoa, no, that's cool. Yeah, so basically you find a body and it's like, wow, that's a dead person. We need to investigate. So you go around and you look for clues, and that's kind of similar to Ace Attorney, where you'll talk to people, you'll get their, their own accounts, and you'll look around and you'll look on the floor and you'll look inside of a drawer or something and be like, wow, this looks like some crucial piece of evidence, and then you'll put it in your little evidence pile. And then you go to the trial, and it's funny because it's a school trial, a Gakuen Saiban, not a turnabout trial like a Gyakuten Saiban. It's so funny. I laugh every time. So what you do in the school trial, it's very interesting. So there are 3 different ways. There's technically a 4th thing that happens at the end, but We'll start with the 3 things first. First, the kids talk. They're all in a circle, and they just kind of say, okay, we need to figure out who killed this person so that we don't die. Because if they get away with it, then we'll die. And we don't want to do that. That's not good. So they'll start with however they feel is most appropriate. Oh, let's establish the time of death. And then they start talking. And it is in real time, essentially. They will start the testimony, someone will say something, and the words will go across the screen. And then the next person will say something after a set amount of time, and it'll go across the screen. And it keeps going like that. You can slow time down by concentrating, but you can't actually stop and go back and forth the way you can in Ace Attorney. You have to keep up with what they're saying when they're saying it. And you, during these testimonies, you are given a certain number based off of the difficulty that you selected, either like easy, normal, or hard. You'll get a certain number of bullets, right? And those are basically curated from your evidence list. Since everything is in real time, they don't want to give you like your huge evidence list because you can't just stop and think about it in the same manner that you do in Ace Attorney. So you have, in normal mode, it's usually 3 different pieces of evidence. And you're like, okay, with these 3 in mind, I have to look at what they're saying and then find the contradiction. And when you see the contradiction, you gotta aim with the cursor, select the correct evidence, and then shoot it. And then you'll be like, hold on, that's not right. And then you keep the conversation going. And then they're like, oh, what a good point. Let's, keep the conversation moving in that direction. And then they'll start a new conversation where you have to keep going and shooting down, very literally shooting down incorrect statements to figure out what happened so you can figure out who did the bad.
I've always felt that Ace Attorney needed a light gun segment.
Oh, you say that, and I just remembered there's a very funny part in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles where, like, you know how they have that, like, sound effect when Ryunosuke takes metaphorical damage and he slams against the wall? There was one, I don't know, I can't remember if it must have been from a real case, because there was a gun in at least one of the cases where Von Zeeks is like, this is the gun, and it shows the picture of the gun as evidence, and then Ryunosuke just takes the damage, and out of context, it looks like he got shot.
I forgot about that.
I just can't. I'm sorry, that's really funny. Okay, that's the way it works.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, danger. Children with evidence
danger
guns.
Or danga.
So Dragon Fruit Guacamole is a really weird name for a game, but apparently it translates to something like bullet refutal or something like that. So it's literally like about how you shoot things in the game. Like that's literally what the game name translates to. It's about that mechanic.
Yeah, it makes sense with Trigger Happy Havoc.
Right.
When I was reading your review, there were a number of things that stood out to me, but one of them being is you were very enthusiastic about the soundtrack.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I immediately went and got like the official soundtrack after I finished the game. It's if it was not like a re-release of an older game, because the soundtrack is the same as the original, it's not like new or anything. If this was like an all new thing, I would say this is like soundtrack of the year 2021. It's amazing.
This is a series that is known for their soundtracks, and it sounds like, I mean, you've certainly been playing your way through it. So you're on the second one now?
Yeah, I'm partway through the second one.
What are the chances that once you finish that you're going to be moving on to the third one?
That really depends. Okay. It's all up to chance. Well, not really up to chance. It depends on my feelings about the second one.
If you really like the second one, we don't have a review for Danganronpa V3, so if it catches your attention and you would like to you'd like to review it, please give me a heads up. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I think I'm halfway through the second one. I think. If it's about the same length as the first one, then I'd be like about halfway through now.
Just 1 second. Sorry, I'm trying to do three things at once here. I've never actually run a podcast before where I'm like talking to somebody about something, but at the same time, this guy is like going on and on about video games. Ugh, video games. How exhausting.
Oh yeah. I'm not watching it. I think my computer would explode if I had that open at the same time.
That's okay. Oh, we got another world premiere, and is it anything that we would even remotely care about? Come on.
Disheveled Gambler 4, right as we're talking about the series?
That's great. Oh, we do care about this. Yeah, well, some of us more than others. I imagine that Caitlin is currently freaking out. It is, whoa, hello. Okay, yeah, so this is Horizon Forbidden West, it looks. And it looks like they have... So there are lots of costumes, and this is a game that many people are eagerly anticipating at the site. The first one is downloaded on my PS5, and it's one of those games that I need to play. But yeah, this trailer looks good.
I loved that underwater section they showed. That looked awesome.
Yeah, Rise Above Our Ruin is the title, and it's going to be Horizon Forbidden West. And yeah, okay, we have a live musical performance, I guess, which we do not need to talk about. So, okay, Niki, just one last thing. You mentioned, your friends and that kind of thing. How big does relationship building play into this game?
I like it in the first game. Because it's never too fan servicey or pandery. It really helps you see like the characters as they are on their own, right? Like their own kind of motives, their own like the agency they exert. And it just kind of helps. I don't think it's not so crucial from a storytelling perspective, which is nice because if you end up like going after a certain character to build your level and then they end up dying, it's like, oops, I didn't get to see the end of that storyline. But so they're written with that in mind. It's good that you get special skills as you interact with them, so you do have a gameplay reason to want to do that. What I like is how it kind of ties into this idea where it's like, I really like this character, I want to get to know them, but then you kind of stop yourself and say, hold on, but if this makes me like them more, I'm going to be especially devastated if they are either 1, the next person to die, or 2, the next person to commit a kill, in which case we have to send them off to get, executed because we have to, reveal them as the murderer. So I liked how that played into it, where you want to get to know these characters more because they're a rather enjoyable cast of characters, so of course you want to get to know them more, but then you're also really like wary about how is this going to make me feel by the time the next chapter is finished, and who knows who's going to still be alive by then. So I liked how that played into it.
Oh, hang on. We have something that looks Final Fantasy based here. This is Final Fantasy something. Final Fantasy 7. I'm just going to turn it up. I don't know if this is...
This is all from the remake.
Yeah, this is all from the remake, but like...
And Intergrade.
So are they going to be releasing a package deal? Or like, I'm just curious if this is a sizzle reel or if this is going to be an announcement for something new. Okay.
Oh, PC.
There it is. It's on Epic. So December 16th. It is going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it looks like Intergrade as well is going to be released on the PC. This will likely be of great interest to many people on the site and to many people listening who do not currently have a PlayStation 5 or I guess PlayStation 4 either. So yeah, that's going to be available. So that's pretty cool. Okay, well, thank you very much, Niki, for walking us through that. I have wanted to play this game for a while. Solosi occasionally gets on my back about it, and he's like, yeah, you'd really like this. So I really don't have much of an excuse to not play it at this point, because it's on every platform that I can imagine and several that I very much enjoy. Yeah, I will definitely be playing that. Have either of you played Final Fantasy VII yet? The remake?
Yep. And definitely, if you haven't, you should get it on PC. It's quite good.
I recently bought it on PlayStation 5, and boy, I'm dumb, because it's coming out on PC, and I would have preferred to have it on PC, but oh well. Niki, do you have any interest in playing Final Fantasy VII? Have you played the original yet?
Yeah. I have the original on my Switch. I just haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I haven't played the original since it first came out. I beat it, and I mean, what am I talking about? No, Final Fantasy VII. I played it like when it first came out, and I played it a few years later. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy, which might be one of the reasons I was a little reluctant to play the remake, but I mean, I don't have an excuse to not play the remake. It's apparently one of the best RPGs of the last couple of years. So I really need to get on that, and this might be what pushes me into it. I mean, we're going to be reviewing this. There's no chance in heck that we're not, because it's coming out on PC. That's a major deal, because it's going to be opening it up to a much larger audience. Makes me wonder what it would look like with like a 3090. Not that I have a 3090 on my computer. I have a 1070 Ti, which is not the cutting edge. And I've actually noticed I've been playing Remedy games the last few days, which is one of the reasons I was so excited about Alan Wake 2 is I just finished Alan Wake 2, and then I played Alan Wake American Nightmare. And the reason I played both of those is because I got to the DLC section of Control, and it's like an entire Alan Wake DLC in this game. So I really, really wanted to play them. And now that this is announced, I am very excited. Very excited. Anyway, okay, so let us move on to this wasn't a remake. Danganronpa was just a re-release. The Anniversary Edition came out on a new platform. But we do have a remake here, and it is a remake of a absolutely beloved game. Actually technically two beloved games, and those games are Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which were for the Game Boy Advance, and they have now been remade from the ground up as Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, which I'm going to refer to as Shiny Diamond for the remainder of this, so I don't have to say that incredibly long sentence repeatedly. And Brian, you gave these a review, and you enjoyed them with some caveats, right?
Yeah, I actually had a really hard time scoring this game. I think it's tough with Pokemon remakes, because I think if it's your first time playing a Sinnoh game, Brilliant Diamond's great, and it's probably the one you should play if it's your first time playing it. But when you look at it from a remake perspective, especially when you look at kind of what we've come to expect from Pokemon remakes, where we had Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which I feel like are kind of the gold standard, and then Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, where, you know, it's the same game, and then they added that post-game bit. Whereas in this, it's just a one-to-one recreation of Diamond and Pearl. And I say just, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's still good, but it's missing a lot of the bells and whistles and extra content that maybe older fans have come to expect from their remakes. And I know that it's also been a little controversial because of some of the modernizations they made, most of which I like. But I know that the big one, and this was a big thing in Sword and Shield too, that I talk about in the review, was the EXP share, which is probably the biggest mechanical change from the originals to this remake. Like in terms of gameplay, that's the big change, really. And it has kind of a mixed effect on the game, where it's nice in that it means you can catch a Pokemon and get them up to speed quickly. You don't have to grind ever. But at the same time, it feels like the game isn't quite balanced around it.
Because it wasn't balanced around it.
Yeah, well, they rebalanced it a little bit. Some of the Pokemon are at different levels. Actually, the Elite Four was pretty good. That was the first place I got to where I was like, okay, I'm roughly on par with the Pokemon here. But like by the time I was at the 5th gym, I was like 10 to 15 levels higher than everything I was going against. Which can be fun to an extent, but I think for a lot of people, it's going to make the gameplay a little dull.
Okay. Well, the thing I've heard most about this game is that it is, like you said, it is extremely faithful to the original. Like, obviously, graphics completely, brand new graphics, inspired by the original, but like, obviously, brand new graphics. And you'd like you said, some quality of life features like experience share, autosave, that kind of thing. What aside from just quality of life, is there anything at all different about these remakes? Or is it entirely an exercise in nostalgia?
It's definitely primarily an exercise in nostalgia, but they did make a couple changes that I quite liked. One that I think is basically just an improvement on the original is the underground has been vastly expanded both in size and in functionality. So in the original Diamond and Pearl, in the underground was basically just for secret base building, and you could mine the walls for items. And you can still do that in the underground in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But it's much bigger, and they added like little Pokemon hideouts, which are small biomes where Pokemon wander around, kind of like a very small wild area from Sword and Shield. And there's a lot of Pokemon that can only be caught in those biomes. So like if you're a completionist or if there's some special Pokemon you want, it's an area you kind of have to check out. And I thought that was a big improvement on the original. It's still kind of just as disconnected from the main game as it was in the original, so you never have to go down there, but it's definitely worth spending some time down there if you pick up the game. The other mechanical change they made was to Pokemon contests, which are vastly simplified now. Before they were kind of multiple rounds, and you had the main round was like this follow the leader type mini game, like a Simon Says type deal. And in this one, it's basically just a simple rhythm game. You pick your Pokemon for the contest, you pick its contest move, and then you just tap A to the rhythm. And so, I mean, whether you'll like the gameplay changes or not is a mix. I like rhythm games, so it appealed to me. But what I actually really like about the Pokemon contest that made me spend more time on them in this game is this is where the graphics really shined for me, because you get like 4 Pokemon on a stage doing a little dance routine instead of just little sprites bouncing back and forth. And that was a lot of fun for me.
Oh, that sounds cute.
And I guess the only other change they made, well, I mean, besides the quality of life ones and the modernizations, is Pokemon follow you around now, which actually was a feature kind of in the original. There was one location in the original Diamond and Pearl where you could walk around with your choice of 11 Pokemon, which it was all of the starters and their evolutions, I think Pikachu and then one other Pokemon. In this one, you can walk around with any Pokemon wherever, whenever, which is fun. It is the outcome is a little mixed depending on what Pokemon you put out, because they all kind of get scaled down to being similar to your size. So if you pick a big Pokemon, sometimes they look a little funny, and some of them have a bit of a funny animation. I know one that's been making the rounds on Twitter has been Ekans, who just kind of slides around like a Roomba.
Super deformed Pokemon.
But for the most part, it's a great feature, and most of the Pokemon look fine. So despite the occasional awkwardness, I was really happy with that feature addition.
I mean, obviously the brand new graphics, all that. And what about the soundtrack? So I imagine they have completely reorchestrated soundtrack at this point, because otherwise it would just be a GBA sound card.
Yep. all new versions of the old songs, and I really like them. I would say I would go so far as to say I like almost every new version better than the original version in terms of the soundtrack. And I liked the original soundtrack. So definitely worth a listen to the soundtrack. They're all fairly faithful to the original, but with, just some slight adjustments. So you'll feel nostalgic if you played the original, but either way, you'll love the soundtrack.
Interesting. This might not necessarily be in our coverage, but it is of interest to me because they mentioned Silent Hill. I'm curious where they're going with this. No point in doing. Oh, hello. Oh, that's. Is horror. Is horror indeed. Oh, look at her go. Oh, look at her. Oh, she's becoming a bone dinosaur. Okay. Holy. Okay, so we've got quite a bloody horror game here. Oh, it looks like there's some blood powers. You can create a blood sword. Definitely not a game in our coverage. Well, I say definitely, but there's no way to know until more comes out. Slitherhead. Now, that is a title. Okay. Here's a question for you. What do you hope the next Pokemon game to be remade is going to be? Well, if you had to choose one. We're actually starting to reach the level now where they don't need to be remade.
That's true. And kind of my answer is kind of the easy one. Gen 5 is one of my favorites, so I do hope they do that one next. Although I wouldn't be opposed to I really enjoyed the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I wouldn't be opposed to them doing that for Johto. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. Oh, we've got something here. I don't know what this is, but looks like it could be in our coverage. Maybe. Nothing like evil characters with faces on their foreheads. What the heck is this game? Is a big monster, and she has a gun, but I don't think she's hunting for it.
There's a Portal Network.
I'm not sure. This. Okay, it's definitely it's first person. It looks like there's hunting mechanics. It'd be a real departure for Far Cry. So, although that would be an interesting take for them to go on. And there's another portal, and yeah, I don't know what this is, but it looks like it could be. Oh, and it looks like there's smithing mechanics. There are guns. There's a revolver. Oh, there's city building. Oh, this looks intriguing. This looks very intriguing. I
just have no idea.
I don't know what this game is. I have no idea. I mean, it says it's a world premiere, so. It looks maybe it is a actual world premiere, or maybe like the title is going to come out and we'll be like, oh yeah, but I don't know. This is looking like it might just be something that we want to take a look at. Okay, so it looks like Victorian kind of high fantasy colonialism.
Nightingale.
You're slightly ahead of me. I don't know what this game is. It's called Nightingale, but it looks pretty interesting. I like the look of this. I imagine that we'd be getting more information if I had the volume on at all, because it's kind of difficult to listen to something and listen to you and this. So I'm kind of like going by the visuals alone.
I have it subtitled, and it's not that much more clear to me.
There are closed captioning. Of course there are. That's brilliant. That's something that, hey, they're Canadian. Yeah. All right. Go Canada. Well, we're going to be bringing this podcast to a wrap pretty soon because, as much as I would enjoy talking about this all night, we want to keep the podcast down to a reasonable length. So we're just going to, I guess, jump to the end of the Game Awards, but we're not really. So the discussion question this week is going to be, now we haven't reached it yet, but I wanted to ask, what do you hope is going to be the last world premiere trailer in the show? So, Niki, if you were watching this and, oh my God, it's so unexpected, you don't know, you couldn't believe it, what is the trailer at the end of the show that you want it to be?
Hades 2, Hades Harder.
I really hope they call it that.
Wouldn't that be
Hades
so
Harder.
good?
I really do want one game series just to like follow the Die Hard naming convention to a T. Like the next one would be like Hades with a Vengeance.
Yeah, hey you Pikachu 2, hey harder. That's the one. That's what it's gonna be. That wouldn't be a remake, right? That would be an actual bona fide
It would have to be,
sequel.
yeah. The one I imagine the one you would like to see would be Pokemon Snap Harder.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Snap Harder. Snap Hard with a Vengeance. live free or snap hard. Anyway, Brian, if you could choose, if you could like magically bring your preferred trailer in, what would it be?
Yeah, if it was entirely up to me, I would love a remake of Fire Emblem 4 in the Shadows of Valencia art style.
Yes, let's
I
go.
agree, that would be awesome. How about we're going to limit ourselves a little bit more to realism.
All right, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'd say the next mainline Fire Emblem then. Any Fire Emblem announcement would make me very excited.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. And it's actually not necessarily unexpected because Nintendo has made some pretty big announcements at the Game Awards. So, hang on, we have what looks to be a world premiere here. It looks like Gollum. It's not an announcement. Gollum had a solo game, but I don't know how much we knew about it. I don't think this is going to have anything to do with us. But if you like Lord of the Rings, then this might be of great interest to you because it looks like it might be better than The Hobbit. For me, I'm just going to go and say, you know what? I just want Breath of the Wild 2. That's what I want. I know everyone's been talking about it, and I know that people have been joking about it, and the best way to be disappointed is to say it out loud. But I'm sorry. I think this would be a pretty cool place for it to be announced. And it's going to be the last big, I suspect that this is going to be the last big end of the year game announcement session. There's not going to be like a direct or anything. It's going to be, this would be the perfect place to announce it for a release in 2022. I don't know if it'll happen or not. In fact, I suspect it won't because, that would be amazing. So I'm going to choose. Sorry, I got off on a little bit of a tangent there. So I'm going to choose. Why is everyone in Final Fantasy XIV eating pizza?
Grubhub crossover.
It's not a joke. It's a Grubhub event.
Okay, so there's crossovers with Chrono Cross and crossovers with Grubhub. Okay, that's
Yeah, all right. Time to start playing.
I really do think Breath of the Wild 2 is actually maybe the only game that I think would not be lackluster as the last reveal, because we're supposed to get Elden Ring in this, right? What else could you put after Elden Ring that's more exciting?
Yeah, Breath of the Wild would be one hell of a showstopper. The only thing I can think of that it wouldn't be for the mainstream, though. The only thing I could think of that would remotely get the same amount of hype would be the announcement of Hollow Knight Silksong.
That'd be big. Yeah, people would like that.
Yes, I would like that very, very, very much. Because I'm one of those people who like every single friggin' game announcement, I'm like, come on, Silksong. And then it just doesn't happen. And it's very sad for everyone, especially me. All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming on to the show and for dealing with my somewhat distracted looking over at the screen, looking back over at the computer kind of thing going on here. Hang on. We have another game announcement of some kind. What is this? It looks cold. I don't know what this is. It looks hyper stylized. Probably nothing that's in our coverage. Here's the problem with me is that I want everything to be an RPG so we can cover it because game announcements just get me excited, even if it's not necessarily a game that I'm interested in playing or a genre that I'm interested in following. It is just really exciting to watch people get excited about this kind of thing. Actually, this looks slightly adventure gamey.
I was gonna say, I feel like with a little stretching, most things can be RPGs.
Everything's an RPG nowadays because there's RPG mechanics and everything.
You are literally playing a role in a game.
True. Every game is an RPG.
Every game is an RPG. Yeah, we've had many discussions at the site about what constitutes an RPG. How can we cover these games? Like I said, this is going to be a bit of a weird episode because, we're jumping around. We're trying to asbestos safety curtain. What the heck is going on here?
I don't know, but the curtain said asbestos.
Is this BioShock?
No, the drums say Cuphead.
Oh, this is Cuphead. Okay. I looked in the background. I didn't see Cuphead. I looked in the background and saw something that looked like it was underwater and I was about to lose my mind.
No, it definitely had the BioShock color palette.
Yeah, and the asbestos screen, that seems very, very Andrew Ryan cutting corners. All right. Anyway, so we'll wind this down for now. Thank you both very, very much for coming on to the show and dealing with my ramblings as I am distracted by the screen and also by what you're saying and my own thoughts and apparently my obsession with Remedy games now. I really need to play Quantum Break now. I'm still jonesing for their unique mix of like storytelling and like building in television shows and film, and to be completely honest, kind of substandard combat that I don't really enjoy that much, but I'm totally involved in the actual story, so I'm willing to put that aside.
I thought Control was passable.
I did not hate Control. I had a good time playing Control.
Alan Wake less so.
I hated the combat in Alan Wake. I just hated it.
Yeah, love the game, hate the combat.
I wasn't bad at it. Like, there was nothing about it that, like, I was not, it got so repetitive.
No, it's not even that hard. It's just not the most engaging.
Yeah, it's not engaging. It's not fun. But I got so involved in the story. Like, the story, I mean, for God's sake, it was Twin Peaks the game. It's like...
Yeah, it's a wonderful story.
It's a wonderful story, but like even the sequel, and there's like a doppelganger, and you're like, oh gosh, they are not just like doing Twin Peaks references at this point. That is like copying the homework right down to the bit. Except if you copy David Lynch's homework, you're going to end up with something that doesn't make sense to anyone. So anyway, if you enjoyed this episode of Random, which is going to be a slightly different episode, we have lots of other episodes. Going back, this is 230, so you have 229 episodes to give a listen to. If you enjoyed this and you would like to, I'm going to minimize this real quick so I am not distracted by Cuphead, because Cuphead is very eye-catching. If you enjoyed this podcast, you might also enjoy some of our other podcasts, including Retro Encounter with Mr. Mike Solosi. We have our first part of Final Fantasy V coming out later this week. Then that's going to be followed by the second part of Final Fantasy V. And then we're going to be doing a review of 2021. So if you want to take a look at some old games there and take a look back at the retro year that was had, please join us on Retro Encounter. But we also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPG Fans' music podcast. Our next episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm not on it. I'm just excited to edit it. It's music that represents the elements. So like earth, fire, wind, water, the RPG elements. So these are songs that are going to represent those elements. So it's going to be a different mix of songs than we usually got. And I just want to give a shout out to the last episode of Rhythm Encounter, which I was on, which was NES music. And that was a blast because we got to listen to some beeps and bloops and talk about some classic music. And it was a really fun time. And I got to talk a little bit about Stephen Sondheim on it. And yeah, it was a good episode, I think. And finally, we have our partner podcast, Phoenix Edge with Hat and Eric. They usually focus on RPG news, and you can find them on YouTube. If you'd like to get in contact with us here at Random Encounter, you can fire us off a message at podcast@rpgfan.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future episode themes, or you have discussion questions, we love getting discussion questions from people. Anything else, just fire it off to that email address and I will get back to you. If you'd like to send me an email, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on Twitter at Jono_Logan. And Brian, where can we find you online?
Yeah, on RPG Fan and on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at BadgerBarian.
BadgerBarian, cool. And Niki, where can we find you online?
I'm on Twitter at Otome_Niki. That's 1K. If there were 2, that would be a diary.
It's like, it's good. It hits the spot whenever you say that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Help get the word out there. Leave us a rating on iTunes or your podcast player of choice. And thank you very, very much for joining us here. I really appreciate it. And we tried something a little bit different in this episode. So yeah, I'm going to continue watching the game. Oh, I missed a Sonic trailer, but since I sincerely doubt it was a Sonic RPG, I don't think it matters. So yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, we might do it again in the future. Give me some feedback about it. We'll see what happens. So thank you very much for joining us, and whatever you're playing, have fun.